Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. I have a question for you. How high is XRP going to go in price this market cycle? And more precisely, I'm very curious, what is reasonable to assume could actually occur? Yes, in real life, not this fantasy land crap where this cycle XRP is going to $1,000 and all that crap like that, or XRP is going to tens of thousands of dollars. I cannot take that seriously. Reasonably, what could actually happen here? Well, there's a recent post from a popular chart analyst covering exactly where XRP might go, but it's interesting specifically because it's based on actual XRP price movements from the past. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. Okay, and so I won't tease too much. I will get to it very soon, but I'll let you know this before getting into the specifics. The prices that we're talking about for this market cycle, they do go into the double digits. And personally, I don't make price predictions. That does sound plausible to me. But first I wanted to mention this because in a recent video, I mentioned that I wanted to talk a little bit more about the importance of liquidity in the crypto asset class. And frankly, as I've been speaking about fairly recently, a fair bit recently, it matters tremendously for market cycles, including in the stock market. And so if you want to have a greater breadth when it comes to the stock market, meaning people going further out the risk curve, investing not just in the Magnificent Seven, but also all the way down to the small cap coins in the Russell 2000. If you want that to happen, which you should, liquidity, as it turns out, is a major factor. And it's important, no matter what coin you want to blast off, because we've never had an alt season without that type of expansion. And so I wanted to show you a very cool chart. I actually reposted it on social media platform X a couple days ago, and now there's this brand new article from the Daily Hodl talking about it, and it comes from Raoul Pal, who is he's a former Goldman Sachs exec, and he's the Real Vision CEO, and he's known as a macro guru. They typically call him that. But he has kind of figured out, and he figured this out a long time ago. He's one of the first to just acknowledge what causes the crypto market to go. It's liquidity cycles, stupid. It's liquidity cycles. He's correct about that. It's not the Bitcoin halving. So anyway, the piece reads as follows. So macro guru and Real Vision CEO Raoul Pal is suggesting Bitcoin is on the verge of having massive breakout rallies due to one main catalyst. Now, I got to pause to say here, even though the chart that he shared, it's highlighting Bitcoin specifically, it doesn't matter. This applies to the entire crypto asset class. And even if Bitcoin moves first and leads the way, as it always has, great, because then eventually Bitcoin gets sold and that money it trickles on down to other large caps and mid caps and small caps and rinse and repeat. So it's fantastic. But check this out. This really genuinely is an interesting chart. Paul tells his 1 million followers on the social media platform X that Bitcoin appears to be rising in tandem with increasing global liquidity. You don't say! And so I have been screaming this to anybody that will listen. For a long time. It is liquidity that is driving the market. That is at the core of all of this. Anyway, Paul shares a chart comparing global liquidity versus Bitcoin that suggests the flagship crypto may reach $90,000 by November. And so here, let me show you the actual chart. And he simply wrote, close, very close. So what you're seeing on your screen here, and let me explain this. So you've got in pink, that's the price of Bitcoin up to the point in time when he posted it, which was 2 days ago on September 16th. And then you have the global M2 in billions. So we're talking about global liquidity. That's some of the most liquid. M1's technically the most liquid, but M2, very liquid. And there's a 10-week lead. And so that's why these charts don't line up. What he has done, because the implication is, liquidity increases, that money must then be allocated somewhere. And so it's clearly what he's getting at here is, as liquidity has increased, a certain amount of it has gone to Bitcoin specifically, which results in the correlation. And so you can see the pink line again, that's the price of Bitcoin leading up to the moment in time where he posted this month in September 2024. And then you can see the black line, which is global M2, and it's going out into November, which hasn't happened yet, obviously. And that's why he says 10-week lead time. They shifted it forward to show that there is this correlation. It's just that Bitcoin lags behind it. That's why they shifted this forward. That's why they wrote 10-week lead time. And he's noting that this is correlated. He used a time frame going back to the end of 2023. And you got to admit, that does correlate pretty damn well. So that doesn't mean for sure, he didn't say outright Bitcoin's going to $90,000. It doesn't mean that it's going to perfectly correlate, but in a general sense, it's one more piece of data that you can look at to help understand and prove the point that liquidity is king. That is what's driving the markets. It just is. Anyway, Peace continues. In addition, Paul says that a historical relationship between Bitcoin and the global money supply M2 metric suggests that the top digital asset by market cap is gearing up for a massive breakout. Real Vision macro expert Julian Biddle is also saying that the macroeconomic conditions are starting to inject more liquidity into the markets, which tends to be bullish for risk-on assets like Bitcoin. Okay, so I already talked about, and I said my piece on the developments, but I'm sure you heard by now, the Fed did cut interest rates, the federal funds rate, cut it by 0.5%, 50 basis points. And I said my piece on that, so I don't want to rehash that in this video, but that's one more thing that should result in an increase in liquidity, cheaper capital. So people and businesses will be more likely to take out loans, spurring economic activity if the risk for doing so is lower. So if there's a lower interest rate, they're more likely to engage in those activities. That's common sense. It's Econ 101 stuff. That's one of many things that they've been citing, by the way, that can help to drive this. Now, there's that narrative that recently the Fed rate cuts have been bad. And I don't want to rehash. I talked about it like 2 videos ago. I've said my piece on that. They are not always bad. They have been. Some recent ones, yes, they have been. Totally different environments. We are in disastrous environments. .com boom and bust. Global financial crisis. Pandemic. That's not surprising. That is not the environment that we're in. And there is data to show. It's a matter-of-fact statement that there have been other instances where there have been rate cuts and the economy just keeps on chugging along. And so the question is, what type of environment are we in now? But I won't beat on that drum any further in this video. So anyway, here's the post, the quote from Julian Biddle, the macro expert at Real Vision. He said, "Hang in there, bulls. It's felt like an eternity trapped in the boring zone, but there's finally some light at the end of the tunnel. Liquidity is on the rise again, and Bitcoin, being extremely sensitive to changes in liquidity conditions, has the potential to move explosively as fresh liquidity flows into the system. The macro environment is shifting. A major liquidity wave is now on the horizon, and when it hits, Bitcoin looks primed for a strong push higher in Q4. Patience is the name of the game now," end quote. And I'll tell you this, it certainly is true that when you look at election years, it's after the election that things really take off. And even outside of that, Q4 is the best quarter historically for the stock market, and specifically the S&P 500. Here's a post from chart analyst E. Greg Crypto. Here's an XRP USD chart. And this is interesting. So what he's doing here, and I'll read through what he wrote, but what he's doing is he's taking a look at actual XRP pumps going back to, it looks like the beginning part of 2014. And then he's highlighting the percentage gains for those pumps, and then saying if those were to repeat for this cycle, here's what prices we'd be looking at for XRP. Now, I like this. I find it very interesting. I do want to note, of course, that with each from one cycle to the next, the multiplier effect that you're going to get for any cryptocurrency that's going to continue to be broadly adopted, as has been the case for Bitcoin, from cycle to cycle, you will get from the bottom to the top of the cycle a much smaller multiple in terms of the returns. And it's very easy to understand why. The more money there is in something, the more money it takes flowing in to get it to double or triple or quadruple. And so for that reason, from one cycle to the next, on the whole, you're not going to see an increase. Now, of course, XRP's a little bit of a unique situation. You can understand that it hasn't had a new all-time high in almost 7 years. So in terms of the multiplier effect compared to the last cycle just a few years ago, in 2021 it peaked at $2. If it dwarfs that, I'm going to say, well, okay, it consolidated for a long time. So it doesn't mean that it can't. But I still believe firmly that the general concept is true. So even if you get an outlier like that, I'm just saying is the more time passes, the less opportunity there is for life-changing wealth and crazy multipliers. So for example, if we're right and XRP makes sense and has long-term viability, I'm just saying like if you go 20, 30 years out, if you're going to posit the idea like 30 years out from now, after there's a ton of money in XRP, if it's really made it, that, we're going to see in a single pump like a 5,000% gain or what, just pick a crazy number. I'm going to be like, are you being for real with me, bro? No. Now that's not what Egret Crypto is saying. I'm just sharing some general concepts and thoughts before going through what he stated here. Now, all that said, if you're talking like from the bottom to the top of a cycle, frankly, all the numbers that he put here don't sound crazy to me. That's not me making a price prediction. I'm telling you straight up, I don't know what the price of XRP will peak at this market cycle. It's not my game to get in the price prediction mode. It'd be disingenuous. I am not a chart guy, so I'm never going to put out a price prediction because it wouldn't mean anything and it would just be disingenuous. That's not my jam. I'm just a regular investor like the vast majority of you listening who has exposure, and I'm going to ride the train. We're just going to see how far along this goes. And see how high this thing goes. That's pretty much it. But I will tell you, based on precedent, historically, and so I'm thinking about other coins, Bitcoin and ETH, thinking when they had less money in them, closer to what XRP had, could you get these types of gains? The answer is yes. You actually can. So I'm not saying that I believe for sure it's going to happen this cycle, but I ain't crazy. This is totally plausible here. And so you can see on the left here, he's got, and he color-coded this stuff to make it easy. He's showing various pumps that actually happened for XRP going back a decade and the percentage gains for those individual pumps. And then he shows what that would mean based on the environment that we're in now. Now, I do want to mention also, like, for instance, if you take a look at the one that he's highlighted in green and then the one in blue, that was for the same market cycle, but they were individual pumps. And so, as I've said many times, the last couple market cycles, there were actually individual moves. So in the case of 2017, XRP started moving whenever it was like March or April. It was around there anyway. Moved sideways for half a year and then had another major burst, blow off top, hit almost $4, right? So he is separating those two. So he's talking about individual notable bursts, which is perfectly fine. I just wanted to note that. And so when you're talking about this, just consider if we're going to have individual bursts here, like the percentage gains. I mean, if you were, so this is the other thing I wanted to say. I almost forgot. So if you're talking about these, what I'm about to read to you, these mega bursts, thousands of percentage gains potentially, if you were going to say that's for like the peak of the cycle, that's where I'm like, okay, I could see that. Now, if you're talking about a massive burst to where it's like, thousands of percent gain, and then we're going to have another thousands of percent gain, then I'd start to be skeptical. But he's not saying that. So I'm just being clear. He's talking about a burst, right? And so here is what he wrote. XRP 5 colors / 5 scenarios. Choose your color. For illustration, I'm using 5 colors to break down where XRP could go based on historical pumps, keeping in mind that this cycle's bottom is 28 cents. Let's dive into the colors and their pump potentials. White is a 932% pump and would take XRP to $3. And so again, that's considering the bottom. Yellow is a 1,563% pump, will push XRP to $4.85. Red, that was a 2,035% pump, will bring XRP to $6.22. And again, he is pulling these percentages from historical XRP price activity. But hope you can now see why I prefaced all this the way that I did. And then in blue, he said a 2,536% pump will rocket XRP to $7.68. And then there's green, a 9,468% mega pump will send XRP to $27. And then he writes, I used half of the wick measurement to avoid any bias from candle formations. So that XRP army stays steady. our black horse is ready for minimum 10x, 15x, 20x, 25x, or even 94x. Choose your color and target. My color, I'm choosing all of them. I'll sell small portions at each key target. Let's not make the same mistake as last cycle. Well, in the last cycle, I sold a bit around $1.85. I bought back around $1, thinking we'd hit a new high, past $1.96. Lesson learned, this time we're ready. Yeah, so I will say XRP seems the most primed it's been since that last mega pump in 2017. This is why this is the most excited I've ever been as an XRP holder. And I lived through that moment in 2017 where it did hit its new all-time high. I was there for it. But as exciting as that was, I was brand new in crypto. And at that point, my holdings were limited. But I've had a lot of time to accumulate. So this is a lot more exciting, the potential of what's to come here. And I think it's just a matter of time. So we'll see what's going to happen here. No guarantees of anything. And we could all be wrong and it goes to zero. But I doubt that. I'll just say I doubt that. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.